We're going to go straight on because he got a golden buzzer from Simon Cowell in his audition and then another one from Amanda Holden during Saturday night's semi-finals, which means that singer Matty J is heading to the Britain's Got Talent final.
Have you ever given everything you had in a moment that truly mattered, delivered something not one person in the room could fault, and still walked away without the result you came for? Millions of people watching the Britain's Got Talent Series 19 final felt exactly that on May 30th, 2026. And the real explanation for what happened is not the one most of them reached for. The night 4 judges got overruled. If you have ever watched Britain's Got Talent, from the auditions through to the final, and found yourself feeling that the most talented person does not always win, you are not imagining things, and you are not simply on the losing side of a close call. You are noticing something real about how the show's format is actually designed, and Matty Juniosa's result is the clearest demonstration of it in recent memory. Britain's Got Talent Series 19 final aired live on May 30th, 2026. 10 acts competed across 2.5 hours for a prize of £250,000 and a spot at the Royal Variety Performance. By the time the final performance had finished, all 4 judges had delivered their assessment of Matty Juniosa with a level of unanimity that rarely happens on that panel. Simon Cowell said he genuinely did not know how the performance could have been done any better, and that the entire panel had fallen in love with Matty from the moment they first met. Amanda Holden called it perfection. KSI told him he was about to go viral again. And then Alicia Dixon said something that, on reflection, revealed more about the result than all the praise combined. She looked at Matty that night and said she was glad the judges were not the ones voting, because after that performance, he could also win the whole show. She said it as a compliment, but she was simultaneously telling anyone paying close attention that she already had doubts about what the public vote would produce. The results confirmed every one of those doubts. The Hawkstone Farmers Choir, 34 farmers and agricultural workers from Chadlington in Oxfordshire, was named the Series 19 winner. A drone collective called Celestial placed second. A dog dancing duo named Anastasia and Salsa placed third. And Matty Juniosa, the only act in Series 19 history to receive 2 golden buzzers, finished fourth. The word robbed began trending across X within minutes. Hosts from the Philippines, Southeast Asia, the United Kingdom, and the United States flooded the platform simultaneously. The backlash was not a small or scattered dissent from a niche fan base. It was a collective, instantaneous feeling shared across multiple countries at the same time, and it was loud enough to dominate the conversation for days. And sitting in the audience that night, visibly emotional as the choir's name was announced, was Jeremy Clarkson, the television presenter and farmer who had helped found the winning choir in 2024 to support the mental health of farming communities around his Oxfordshire estate. That detail alone was enough to spin the internet into a completely separate conversation about whether the result had been orchestrated. Claims circulated that Clarkson had promised followers drinks in exchange for votes. None of those claims were ever confirmed by any credible source, and treating them as fact would actually be a distraction from the real explanation. Because the real explanation is more structural, more uncomfortable, and has been sitting in plain sight since the very first episode of the series. The show that does not tell you what it is actually measuring. Here is what Britain's Got Talent presents itself as: a national search for the most talented performer in the country, protected and guided by professional judges whose golden buzzers exist to identify and advance the most exceptional acts they encounter. That promise is delivered on through the auditions and semi-finals. When Simon Cowell pressed his golden buzzer for Matty, that was the talent competition functioning exactly as advertised. But here is what the final actually is: a public phone vote, open only to United Kingdom mobile numbers, in which every act starts from 0 the moment the voting lines open. 2 golden buzzers, the highest form of recognition the show's format can produce, count for nothing in the final. Prior judge assessments count for nothing in the final. Every advantage built through months of performance, every critical endorsement, and every hard-won moment of extraordinary television resets completely when the broadcast goes live. This is not a hidden rule. It is stated openly, but it is enormously consequential when you understand what it means in practice. The final is not the conclusion of a talent competition. It is a separate contest that uses the same stage, the same hosts, and the same judges as decoration, but operates on entirely different principles. One is decided by professional assessment of vocal and performance ability. The other is decided by which act can mobilize the most UK phone numbers in a 2-hour window. Matty Juniosa won the talent competition portion of this show comprehensively. He earned the only 2 golden buzzers given to a solo vocalist in the entire series. What he walked into in the final was a different contest entirely, and the reasons he could not win that one had nothing to do with whether he deserved to. Understanding what those reasons actually were requires going back to understand what he brought to the show, and why it was simultaneously extraordinary and structurally insufficient for the specific challenge the final presented. The man who arrived knowing exactly what he needed to do. Matty Juniosa was born in Mandaluyong City in Metro Manila in the Philippines and grew up in a household where music was present in nearly everything. He started performing at around 5 or 6 years old. He gave himself the nickname Matty Juniosa after his idol Beyoncé. He worshipped Aretha Franklin, Christina Aguilera, Stevie Wonder, and Tina Turner. He was the kind of One Direction fan who made classmates sit down and watch the band's original audition footage on a loop. And if you were that person in your own friend group, you already understand the specific intensity of devotion that drives someone to share music that way. That detail about One Direction becomes significant in ways that only became clear later. Because the man who pressed the golden buzzer for Matty on Britain's Got Talent was Simon Cowell, the exact same person who had mentored One Direction into global stardom. The boy who had spent years replaying those audition clips grew up to receive the same hand from the same person. But before that could happen, there was a sustained experience of not quite making it far enough. In 2019, he competed on the first season of Idol Philippines, reached the final stages, and was eliminated. He formed a vocal group called iDolls, released music under a major Philippine entertainment label, competed on a nationally broadcast talent competition, and finished 4th. He has spoken openly about comments regarding his weight and appearance during that period, and about being told he had talent but was not relatable enough for mainstream audiences. And if you have ever been told something similar about yourself in any setting, you know that those particular words do not leave quickly. By 2022, he had moved to Glasgow on a partial scholarship to study musical theatre at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. He was paying his way as a part-time waiter while building a stage career through productions across Glasgow and Edinburgh. He played Lola in Kinky Boots. He appeared in The Hunchback of Notre Dame at the 2024 Edinburgh Fringe. He was working, consistently and quietly, in a country that did not yet know his name. Britain's Got Talent producers reportedly reached out to him 3 separate times before he agreed to audition. And when he finally said yes, he walked in with a plan he had already prepared. The audition that left no part of itself to chance. The audition aired on the 28th of March, 2026, and before a single note had been played, Matty Juniosa had already done something that most contestants simply do not do. He had researched Simon Cowell specifically, identified that Purple Rain by Prince was one of Cowell's all-time favorite songs, and selected it not because it was his most comfortable performance choice, but because he understood exactly who was sitting behind that table and what would reach him most directly. Before the music started, Cowell asked him whether he watched Star Wars. Matty replied, without any hesitation at all, that he was too gay for that. The entire theater erupted. Cowell, who has spent over 20 years on television perfecting the art of being the person in the room who does not get caught off guard, looked genuinely surprised. The room's energy changed completely in those few seconds before any music had started. And if you have ever walked into a high-stakes situation and somehow found a way to make the whole room exhale and laugh before the real pressure landed, you know exactly what that response did in those seconds. It is extraordinarily hard to pull off under that specific kind of pressure, and Matty delivered it like it required no effort at all. The performance itself matched every bit of the preparation behind it. Every note was intentional. The judges were on their feet before the song had finished. KSI told Matty that his personality was outstanding and that the moment he took the microphone off the stand, he became a superstar. Cowell said it was the biggest reaction they had seen from anyone so far that year. The audience was already chanting for the golden buzzer before any judge had finished speaking, and Cowell pressed it. But what tends to get completely swallowed by the excitement of that moment is what Matty said before he sang. He told the panel, on camera in front of millions of people, that he had spent years carrying the belief that he would always be a singing competition loser. He named that fear publicly in one of the most watched rooms in British television and then walked to the center of the stage and spent the next few minutes dismantling it in real time. That combination of raw honesty and that quality of vocal performance is not something that surfaces on primetime Saturday night television very often. The clip went viral across the United Kingdom, the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and the United States, almost simultaneously. Diaspora communities across multiple continents amplified it within hours. Matty had stopped being a contestant on a television program and had become something considerably larger, and the most significant moment of his time on the show had not yet arrived. The judge who pressed her buzzer as a warning. Semi-final 1 of the 2026 series aired live on April 25th from the Eventim Apollo in London. The act most widely expected to win the public vote that night was the dog-dancing duo Anastasia and Salsa, and that expectation proved entirely accurate. Matty closed the show with a powerful cover of Dream On by Aerosmith, and after his performance, he received a standing ovation from both the judges and the audience. Alicia Dixon called it effortlessly sensational and described it as a stellar masterclass in how to deliver a Class A vocal. Then Amanda Holden waited until the very last moment, despite loud crowd chants for other acts, before pressing her live golden buzzer. This made Matty only the 4th act in the entire history of Britain's Got Talent to receive 2 golden buzzers in a single series, alongside Paddy and Nico, the Blackouts, and Ollie Pearson. But now, here is the part of that moment that deserved far more examination than it got in the celebration that followed. Amanda revealed she had asked the producers what would happen if she did not press her golden buzzer, and was told it would go to the audience. Amanda later admitted she saved Matty because she knew the public would likely back the dog act. A viewer comment that surfaced widely on social media that same night captured the feeling accurately, noting that Matty was the sort of act who was stupidly talented, but that the public would not necessarily reward him for it. A judge on the panel had reached exactly the same conclusion and done the only thing she could to address it. What nobody on that panel could have anticipated was that the same problem would return in the final at a scale that no golden buzzer could have reached. The machine that was built exactly for moments like this. Britain's Got Talent Final is a public phone vote open to UK mobile numbers only. Every prior performance, every judge endorsement, every golden buzzer, every viral moment resets to 0 when the voting lines open. This single structural fact is the foundation on which the Matty Juniosa result stands, and understanding who it favors in practice makes the outcome feel far less like a surprise. Now think about where Matty's loudest and most engaged support was actually located. Filipino entertainment networks had been covering his journey since March. Diaspora communities across Southeast Asia, the United States, Canada, Australia, and the Middle East had been following him with genuine passion and posting about him constantly across multiple platforms. The global energy around him on the night of the final was substantial and real. But every single one of those supporters, regardless of how many times they wanted to vote, was locked out of the process by a system that only accepts UK mobile numbers. This is not a conspiracy. It is a design reality that was built at a time when the idea of a BGT Act, whose most passionate supporters were distributed across multiple continents and could not participate in a national phone vote, was not a problem anyone had needed to account for. Matty may well have been generating more global interest on that final night than any other act on that stage. It did not count toward a single vote. Now look at what the Hawkstone Farmers Choir brought to the vote. 34 members, each connected to families, neighbors, farming community networks, and agricultural associations rooted entirely within the United Kingdom. Their story was not purely a musical one. They had been established specifically to address the mental health crisis in British farming communities, and that message connected with a significant portion of the British public in a way that had nothing to do with vocal ability and everything to do with community identity and shared experience. Behind all of that sat Jeremy Clarkson, whose television series Clarkson's Farm had built one of the most devoted and engaged viewer communities in recent British broadcasting history. He was visible in that audience, looking emotional as the results came in. His presence did not need to come with any instruction or explicit call to action. It was a signal to a specific, motivated, and numerically substantial segment of the British public. And that segment responded to it. Matty did not lose this because he was outperformed. He lost because he was outstructured by advantages that had nothing to do with anything that happened on that stage, and because the people who actually understand the difference between talent and televised popularity had already declared their opinion of him a full month before the vote was cast. The verdict the industry made before anyone else voted on the 30th of April, 2026, a full month before the Britain's Got Talent Series 19 final had even aired on television. The official Andrew Lloyd Webber website published the complete cast announcement for the West End revival of Jesus Christ Superstar at the London Palladium. The production was scheduled to run from the 20th of June through to the 5th of September, with a press night on the 7th of July. In that cast list, clearly billed alongside Sam Ryder in the lead role, was the name Matty J from Britain's Got Talent in the role of Annis. The professional theater world had already made its decision about Matty Juniosa before a single vote had been cast in the final. While Britain was still deciding whether he would finish first or fourth on a Saturday night phone line, the West End had already committed to him, and that distinction matters more than almost anything else in this story. The BGT final is a 2-hour emotional exercise shaped by community loyalty and whatever personal feeling a viewer brings to their phone on a specific Saturday night. A West End casting involves directors, producers, and musical supervisors who are staking real financial resources on whether someone can perform 8 times a week in front of a paying audience across a multi-month run. They are not voting on a feeling. They are investing money in a professional judgment. And that judgment said Matty was worth the investment before the public had even heard his final performance. After the result was announced, Matty posted on Instagram that he had placed 4th on Britain's Got Talent, which happened to be Beyoncé's birthday, and said he was very proud of that. He then said the whole experience had given him the energy and determination he needed to land the Jesus Christ Superstar role. He had already converted the show's platform into something that the majority of BGT finalists, including several winners, never actually achieve. He also mentioned keeping a handful of golden confetti from his first golden buzzer because he sometimes needed it to remind himself the whole thing had actually been real. That detail alone tells you everything about this story. A person still marveling at the journey while holding a West End contract is not someone whose legacy is a 4th-place finish. The trophy went elsewhere. The career was already waiting. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments on whether you believe Britain's Got Talent's final voting format is genuinely fair to acts like Matty, or whether you think the public vote is still the right way to decide it.